course, my password isn't working.
You may have to stop and restart if you had to give permissions for it to do so.
Dad, I wonder if maybe I could share the presentation with you and you can share your screen and then I can just have you click through for me.
Okay.
Are you on a Mac or a PC, Rachel?
I'm on a Mac, so you think restarting it would help?
Yeah, once you give it permission, you have to quit the app and restart it for the permissions to work. So if you'll quit and then log back in, then you should be able to screen share.
Okay, let me try that. Hold on one second, I still need to get the preferences sorted out. Okay, so Ring Central, quit and reopen. Yes, I'll be right back. Okay, let's see if that worked. If so, thank you for the experts in the room. Very helpful. Okay, let's get that screen shared.
Richard, could you use this time to reintroduce her so it will be on the recording?
Yes. So today we have Rachel Lynch talking to us about language learning with Babbel. Rachel lives in Berlin, so this is our first opportunity to have an international speaker with us. So that's exciting, I think.
Yes, it's giving me the, the swirling rainbow of death.
Oh no.
Yes.
If you can throw it to Dropbox, then I can try to bring it up and share it if you want to go ahead and try that.
Okay, let me quit one more time and retry.
Ray, do you recognize my backdrop, my screen background?
I assume that's the one and only.
That is the one and only, yes.
Well, that's mighty nice.
My project for the future on that is to try to create a replica motherboard Rev 0 that was the original that you had replaced at one point.
Yeah, if I hadn't done that, I might have had a much more valuable old Mac.
Oh, it's priceless to me. And I've got just about all the parts to make the replica board. I've been looking around for somebody who has made one. There are a couple of options, but I haven't bought a blank motherboard yet, but I've got most of the other parts for it.
Well, that'd be great.
Okay, can we see my screen now? Thumbs up.
Yes, we can.
Yes, sorry about the technical difficulties. But yeah, so I am gonna share with you guys what it's like to learn a language with Babbel. I'm a UX researcher at Babbel, so my job is to talk to people who are trying to learn a language with Babbel to see how is it going, what are any issues we could solve to try and make the experience better. And just like kind of a peek into the world of options for language learning. You have obviously classroom, one-on-one tutors. You could learn from books online, which is the sphere for Babbel. You could get tandem partners, play games, lots of options here for what people could choose to learn a language. And as a researcher, I try to understand what goes into what a person might consider when they choose which method is best for them. So we look, or we understand that people consider things like their motivation. So there's a lot of reasons out there to learn a language, from, you know, someone's traveling to a new country and they want to be able to get around when they're there, order coffee, ask for directions. In the US, a big one is that maybe you live in a community where people speak another language. Spanish is quite popular, and so you want to connect more with the people around you. Maybe you need it for work. It would help you advance in your career. And so all of these different motivations kind of lend themselves to different methods that might work for you. There's also time. Do you need to learn immediately, or do you kind of have time to do it casually? How much do you want to spend learning a day? Do you want to kind of go at it intensely and get it done in a short time frame, or do you have a longer window where you can learn for, I don't know, years maybe even? And you know, which moments in your day do you want to learn? So do you want to be really consistent and have a tight schedule to stick to, or do you kind of want to be flexible and learn whenever you want? And then obviously investment, it comes with varying levels of cost for which kind of methods that you use. So as a researcher, it's really nice to understand what Babbel, specifically the reasons why somebody would choose to learn with Babbel. So Babbel is in the sphere of online learning tools, and maybe you guys are familiar with some of the other big ones in the US, which is Duolingo. So that's more of the free kind of games-based learning, and a lot of the content is automatically generated. There's Rosetta Stone, that maybe is one of the older tools. So the theory is you're learning through immersion. There's using images, text, sounds, really without any translation. And then Babbel, we have content created by a large linguist team, and it's built to really guide you through learning instead of just throwing you in without any kind of context or translation or guidance. So of course, just a little bit more about Babbel. We are headquartered in Berlin. That's where we started. It was a small startup about 10 years ago. We do also have an office in New York, and we're a quite diverse set of people from about 50 different nationalities, really a really nice place to work. Obviously, it's a language app, and I'll be kind of diving into what it's really like to learn with the iOS app. One thing that's kind of interesting about Babbel is this consideration of, do you learn from a teacher, kind of from a human, versus do you learn from technology? And I think a key differentiator here for Babbel is that we try to take the human approach. So not a lot of our content isn't automatically generated, and we try to not just throw the users or the learners into the deep end without any help. There's really a lot of guidance along the way. So just a little bit about what we offer. You can choose from 14 different languages to learn, and starting from 7 different display languages. So like our display language would be English, and then you can learn German, Spanish, Italian, French, even Indonesian, kind of cool, Russian. We have 60,000 probably plus lessons created for all of our language combinations. And then skill levels, we really want to guide people up from a brand new newcomer up to advanced, or even becoming kind of independent. So you have that option within our courses to grow. And then, like I said, we have 150 plus linguists. So that's our team of expert language teachers who build and curate all of this content. That's, it's not delivered through an algorithm or something like that. Just a sneak peek at, what our app looks like. There's different options to learn, and we're gonna, showcase these a bit in more detail. So with Babbel, where we start is placement. It's, unless you're starting at total zero, to be able to personalize the experience to you and what level you need to start at, we offer a placement test. So these are statements around how confident are you that you could order a cup of coffee in Spanish, for example. And that helps us place you into that first lesson, and then, take you on the path that's right for you. So this lands you on your path where you can see which lesson which course you're currently on, and then the lessons that you need to work through to complete that course. And we pepper in, like you can see, this is my lesson that I just completed. So the next thing I actually need to do is review. So I'm not just jumping on to the next new thing to learn. I'm actually trying to retain what I learned previously as well. Then jumping into the lessons, there's a really nice feature we call speech recognition, and you can choose actually what's best for you. You can kind of personalize the experience. So at the beginning of a lesson, you can choose whether or not you want to practice speaking at that moment. Like maybe you're in the dentist's office and you don't actually have, you don't want to be speaking German out in front of everybody, so you don't use speaking for that lesson. But if you do choose to use speaking, it offers you the vocabulary words. You press record, you speak the word into your phone, and then it grades you whether you were wrong or right. So this is really helping to, I think one thing, especially for Americans, is we don't really get as much of a chance to use a foreign language unless you're out traveling a lot, or like I said, maybe you live in a community that speaks another language. So actually getting to speak and practice your pronunciation is kind of a big pain point for our American market specifically. So being able to speak kind of in a safer environment too, because I know we can sometimes be self-conscious about our accents. Do we sound silly if we aren't, closer to sounding native? So it's really meant to be a safe kind of environment to get you potentially out of your comfort zone and really start speaking. So you can continue on through the lesson. A lot of the structure is built around building on previous skills. So you're learning new vocabulary. You go through and you practice these new vocab words or these new verbs here, for example, and then you build on it. So you practice vocabulary, then you write it, or you have to do a matching game or something that helps you try and retain what you just learned. Then this is a feature that quite a lot of people like. You kind of put it into practice. So this one is from my German lesson that I just did yesterday, and it's letting you see how a real conversation would flow in that language. I think what's nice is it gives you the chance to also learn more in the context of a real language. So I'm filling in, each of these individual words. Those are the ones I'm currently learning. But at the same time, there's a whole sentence here, and we offer the translation. So you can really start building up that vocabulary in this real conversational way. So this is one of, I think, the favorite features of people that I talk to who have used Babbel. And a really nice piece is that grammar is taught. So compared to maybe Rosetta Stone, Their theory is that you don't really need to learn a specific grammar concept. You're just going to kind of pick it up as you go along, which the theory is it's like immersion. So if you go to a new country and you spend 6 months there, you're just going to pick it up because you're hearing it all the time. But Babbel takes a stance that there are certain kind of foundational grammar rules that will help you to go beyond what you just learn in the app. So if you learn what the patterns to conjugate regular verbs are, then that allows you to start building maybe some of your own sentences because you can fall back on those rules that you learned for grammar. I mean, me personally, I hate grammar. I'm really bad at it. I didn't like that section in English class. I think actually even for Americans, not everybody, but some of us are a little bit less comfortable with grammar topics because we don't have that wide kind of language education. But I think it's really nice that Babbel incorporates the grammar to help you with this skill. And then you get a chance to reflect, you kind of have a score after your lesson and you can decide, oh, maybe I got 2 out of 10 wrong, so I should probably go back and do that again. Or, 8 out of 10 is fine. I'm just going to move on with my life and maybe I'll review it later. So you've, taken your placement, you've started your first lesson, maybe you spoke a few words and got some things right and wrong. And what is also really great about Babbel is there is a strategy for reviewing in the app. We built in what we call spaced repetition. So there is an algorithm here that decides which words you should review based on the last time you reviewed it, when you learned it, how many times you've gotten it right or wrong in your lessons. And so this is a really nice kind of personalized section of the app where you can review in these different ways through listening, speaking, flashcards, writing things out, or you can actually even see my vocab, which is all of the pieces that you've learned in all of the lessons you've done so far. So some people even like to come in here and you can click play all. Maybe you're like cooking dinner or something and you want to just listen to the language, you can play all, and then you hear all of your vocabulary as you're doing something else, which is a use case that we hear kind of often. So that's nice. Then Babbel for a while was really this core lessons and review. So you would do your lessons in the app, you would pepper in your review sessions, and that was it. We weren't, and then we started hearing from our users, we want other ways to learn. We feel like just going, from lesson to lesson to lesson to review, it's getting a little bit boring. And it's not, I'm getting used to this and I'm not learning a lot of new things anymore. So we took the last year to try and come up with ways we could offer a learning experience that's not just those lessons and reviews. So you can see here we have some audio content similar in a way to what I just talked about with the vocabulary list. We definitely hear from people that they want to be able to listen to things while they're doing other activities. So we've started to really add more of these audio opportunities. We have little short stories that make it kind of more fun, maybe to read in the language that you're learning. Culture bites, we're hearing from users that they don't only want to just learn the language, they want to feel like they know a little bit about the culture of the language that they're learning as well. Then there's some games. This one actually has started to become pretty promising. People are really enjoying the aspect of, language learning can be frustrating. Maybe you don't make the progress that you want to make. Motivation is kind of hard to keep up. It really needs to turn into a habit if you want to get good. And so all of that can become maybe draining or overwhelming, or you've failed in the past. So I think it's really important for us to also bring in a fun element and not just make language learning this thing, this chore that you have to do if you want to get better. So bringing in games where you can practice vocabulary and sentences in different contexts. So we have a phrase maze, which is kind of like where you're chasing a ghost, a word tracks, which is you're trying to beat a train and spell some words. Sink or spell is kind of like a hangman style. So this section specifically are all new experiments for how can we make the learning experience on using a digital app better for people. Then you get into some of the specific topics. So maybe you have done a few lessons, maybe you've even finished a course, you've played some games, but you're thinking to yourself, I feel like I'm lacking in listening, for example. So some people are better at grammar than others. Like I said, I'm really bad at that. Some people are better at listening, so they could hear something and they understand it pretty well, but they aren't so good in grammar. So it really is not just a one size fits all for how you learn a language. You kind of have to get to know yourself and see what are your weaknesses and what could you improve. So we have some more specific courses that you can find to practice, like grammar, listening, even if you needed to learn it for your job, business, reading and writing. And so you can drill into some specific skills that you want to improve as well. Then we also have to consider how we help people see progress. Because like I said, language learning, it's a long-term game. It's not a, I mean, you can pick some things up pretty quickly, but if you want to get really good, it's a time investment over kind of a longer period of time. And maybe you won't see the progress day to day if you're just, taking the next lesson. So we try to really showcase through these progress bars and, telling you how many lessons you've completed and how much of your level. We try to help you visualize how far you've come since you started with Babbel. Then another piece that we're seeing is actually helping people stay more consistent is setting a goal. So a goal for this week, I want to do 5 activities, and in your profile, you can set the number and then it will track for you when you've hit your weekly goal. So it's just another, Duolingo does a lot of this. They have lots of kind of gamification that does help you stay engaged. Though we hear from some people with that app, it's not always feeling like you're actually learning something, because some of the sentences are kind of weird, like learning about a girl eating a red apple, like who cares, or something about a shoe. So Babbel has taken a conscious choice to not go so heavy in the gamification world, but it is important for all humans to kind of be able to visualize progress and set goals to achieve something. So we're working on how to support that as well. Then we have other options for learning. Podcasts specifically has been a really nice addition over the last year. So it really depends which language you're learning. For Americans, Spanish is quite a popular one, so they typically have more of the features and more of the content that we create. So different podcasts for different levels. You can see there's some for beginner, going from 0 to hero, or there's one for an intermediate and advanced. So we're really investing in offering different ways for people to learn. Also, everybody kind of, maybe you're a more visual learner or auditory learner, so we're trying to serve more use cases. And now you can take a class, actually. So although we are sticking to the digital language learning market, we also realized that maybe just an app isn't quite enough to get you to where you want to be. We noticed that in talking to some of our users who kind of stopped using Babbel or weren't using it as often, they were going to other things, like they were signing up for a tutor or a class or a tandem partner, because yes, an app is really great, a really great way to learn a language for somebody who wants to learn independently and kind of do it on their own time. But we also acknowledge it doesn't always get you the real world experience of talking to somebody, or maybe your very specific needs can be met better by a more hands-on approach from a teacher. So that's why in the last few months, we've launched our new Babbel Live. So online classes that you join with a small group, and there is a teacher there that takes you through the content and then also links back to lessons in the app that can help you review the things that you learned in your class. And kind of the last thing that is nice about Babbel is it's cross-platform. So like I mentioned, there's obviously an iOS app, we have an Android app, and we have a website, and your account syncs obviously cross-platform. And what's really nice about this is you can learn anywhere. So again, talking to our learners, we see that the app is really nice for maybe you just have a spare 5 minutes and you want to open it up and do a quick review, or you're on the train and you want to take your lesson, or you're waiting at the dentist's office. The app is a really good opportunity to just learn whenever you have a free moment, because it can be hard to sometimes make time for it. Then the website, if you prefer to really sit down and focus and have your computer there, maybe you even have a notepad. Some people use the website and they take notes on the side. Then it gives you an opportunity to really focus and spend a lot of time, maybe more so than in the app. So I think it's nice to have both options. And that's really my review of what it's like to learn language online, specifically with Babbel. And just wanted to say thank you for giving me the chance to share with you guys. And we have 6 coupon code that we're going to share with my dad, Richard, for 6 free months of Babbel subscription. And I think he's going to do maybe like a little drawing or something from the people who are here today. And you can have 6 free months of learning with Babbel. So that's all I have.
How many languages do you know?
I know only one. I'm trying very, very hard to learn German. Well, I'm trying, maybe not very hard. But German is actually surprisingly difficult. I kind of always heard in school, if you already know English, German might be easier because they're both Germanic languages. But like I was saying, the grammar is so different, and that's kind of one of my weak points. So I really struggle with understanding the sentence structure. There's really weird things where sometimes you actually have to wait until the very end of the sentence. That last word is like tells you what the sentence means. So it's like, it can be really confusing. So.
Yeah, they'll put the verb at the end. It does make for some interesting humor over there. Some of the
yes.
comedy guys, it makes for some fun jokes in German when you
Exactly.
stop an unexpected word.
Yes. How many languages do you know?
Basically one, but I would like to learn another one. So it does kind of channel it, make me think maybe this might be something I might want to try.
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
it's a journey.
I missed the first part of your introduction. Where are you living?
I'm in Berlin. So
Yeah.
our main headquarters for Babbel is in Berlin. So I moved here for the job.
Wow. Well,
Wait, you didn't speak to cost at all.
Oh yes, that fair point. So Babbel is, I would say, relatively affordable. It's a subscription-based app, and typically people sign up for around. You can either do 3 months, I think 6 months, 12 months, and it comes out to be between $5 to $10 a month, depending on what package you choose. So if you buy the 12-month subscription, it's a little bit less cost to you.
I have a question concerning phonics. When you're learning a language, does that come into play? But when I was in grammar school, they quit teaching phonics, so I never learned it.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible speller, but is within Babbel, is there phonics used?
Yes, so there's less of a focus on learning the alphabet, and I would say there's less of a focus on phonics, but definitely there's spelling activities, so writing, and the letters tend to be scrambled, so it does help you kind of learn how to spell the words. But more so we lean towards practical use of the language, not necessarily that you'll learn, even though we do teach grammar, it's not expected that you use Babbel to become an expert, like speller, grammar person with the language. You can if you want, but you can also get away with not having that skill.
But if you're learning English, would phonics be used in that process?
I guess so. I mean, I guess parts of phonics, right, is kind of like matching images with sounds and symbols. So there is some, matching of the image with the word, and there's some things about pronunciation, but I wouldn't say it's a huge piece of the learning.
And I would have thought trying to be able to spell German language would be extremely difficult.
Yes. Actually, the nice thing about German, yes, very long words and spelling is quite hard, but their pronunciation is very consistent. So EI or IE is always pronounced the exact same way in any word, whereas in English, it's kind of like sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's another. So I would say German is easier in that aspect, but the spelling can be difficult. So it's not a huge focus in the app, but it is there if you want to practice.
I was stationed in Germany for 2 years, way back in the 50s, and you could take German on the base through University of Maryland, and some of our guys took advantage of that,
Mm-hmm.
and living in Germany, I think they really did well. Not that they were totally fluent, but taking the class, and the rest of us, we just spoke GI German.
Yes.
And, but I've noticed that, I wonder if you think this is true. I've noticed that technical material in German seems easy to read. I mean, you can almost, so many technical terms somewhere or other transliterate to English rather easily.
Yes. I would say the thing with German and English, even not necessarily with technical terms, is some of that vocabulary is very similar. So you kind of you pick that up a little bit easier. But then, like I said, the grammar and the sentence structure for me is much more difficult to understand. So I might, pick up some individual words and kind of understand the content, but I don't necessarily understand the meaning of what's going on. So that part is harder for me.
I'll have to share with you, Rachel, I was stationed in Germany also, and I had a German colleague who taught me one of my favorite German words, which is, this is one word, Höchstgeschwindigkeitsbeschränkung.
There's so many of those. It's ridiculous. What does that one mean?
Well, the irony is, of course, the irony is, of course, in Germany on the Autobahn, there's no speed limit, and that stands for speed limit.
We were taught to, we quickly learned two GI German notes. One was, if they don't understand you, just talk louder and louder and louder. And the second one said, this is the first thing you have to learn. Wo ist der Bahnhof?
Yep.
Because you'd really learn that. If you got lost or if you needed something, their Bahnhofs, their train stations, were a plethora of information. You could always get home, or you could find an AP. So where is the train station? And I'm safe again.
Wo ist der Bahnhof? That's true. The transportation here is very good. It's very reliable, and you can get lots of information there.
Absolutely.
That's a good one.
The GIs had a major problem with the German phrase "Mach's nix." They would always say "Mach's nix," "Mach's nix." So
yeah.
And Entschuldigung was chewing gum.
And very nice. Very nice.
Oh.
I tell you, maybe I can do this quickly. Amazing story about the Berlin and the internet. A few years ago, some of you have heard part of this story. A few years ago, my mother lived on a homestead in New Mexico, and she left stories about living there as a young girl. And I decided I was going to turn it into a book. I got on the internet and I found a woman whose family had also lived there. And she had been out to this little town where mother had been, the same little town. So we teamed up together, and I had a lot more material to work on. And we just emailed back and forth for a number of years. And the main story was about a murder in this little town. Mother had a memory of it, and she had written it. And the person that was killed was my other friend's uncle. And that's the reason she'd been out there for many times to collect pictures and all this information. Well, one day, both of us received an email from a girl in Berlin that we'd never heard of. And we still don't know exactly how she got our emails. But she announced to us, this story included the arrest of the woman who did the murder, the trial, the conviction. She was declared insane and sent off to an insane asylum. Well, this new correspondent from Berlin said, that woman was my grandmother. She was not insane. She got out of the insane asylum. She married, had a family, and I'm writing a book about it. Well, sure enough, over the years, she wrote her book, we wrote our stories, and we shared information frequently. Turned out she lived in Berlin. She was a dancer. She was a professional dancer, opera type dancer. Her husband's an author. And the last time I corresponded with her, she said, I think I'm going to write a screenplay.
in German?
So international email, it was a crazy thing to happen.
Very
I
nice.
did finally finish the book.
All right, we ready for the drawing? I'm gonna try something here. Anybody else have any other questions for Rachel before we do this?
For now, we don't have any questions, but we sure did like your talk, Rachel. Thank you.
Absolutely interesting. Wondered about
Yes, ma'am.
that.
I hope it was helpful.
All right, on my screen, I'm counting 20 people that are currently on. So I downloaded a random number generator that I'll share on my screen in just a moment. So what I'd like to do is when I get the number, Taylor, if you can count on your screen, if you see the 20 people I'm looking at, start in the upper left, just count to the number of the person that I give you, and then that'll be the person that wins. I won't consider Rachel or myself. So if the number comes up, Rachel or myself on your screen, then we'll just do it again until we get somebody. If somebody doesn't want the thing, then we'll just do it again until somebody, you know, accepts the prize. So let me share my screen. See if this works.
Can we ask Rachel a question while you're doing that?
Sure.
Rachel, so you spoke a lot of learning German, but doesn't Babbel teach lots of languages? I think you did say that.
Yes, so I can look at the list here.
Oh, I'll just take your word for it. I'm currently via the computer with a granddaughter who lives in California, and our Spanish teacher lives in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
And I have begged off and not gone lately because I have too much yard work. But any case, so granddaughter is really a good student, and she had already done some learning and gone to Mexico for 10 days, a couple of years ago. So her Spanish is really good.
Yes.
My Spanish, now remember, I'm probably close to the oldest one on this screen. My Spanish is from 9th grade in Detroit, Michigan. But we did have a native Spanish speaker, Mr. Como was our teacher. And now all these many, many years, I have used Spanish, particularly here in Dallas, because a goodly number of the patients that show up in a hospital don't understand a thing that's going on with them.
Yes.
And they don't at first understand my Spanish because I don't even pronounce everything really well. I don't in English either, but it's interesting. Their faces light up when they finally catch on to what I'm saying. And then the ladies particularly always correct my Spanish again.
Yes.
It's kind of fun.
It's very nice to even just like, if you know a little bit, it really helps to make that connection with somebody else. So that's what I think keeps people learning, is because it's just a very human connection feeling that is really nice. So yeah. And for Spanish, for the US market, we had originally built Spanish lessons based from like Spain Spanish, but obviously living in the Americas, it's more of the Latin American Spanish, and they are different in kind of significant ways. So then we released about a year ago, maybe a little more, a version of courses for Spanish that is more Latin American, maybe specifically Mexican Spanish. So yeah.
Very aware of that, because actually Mr. Como told us about Castilian Spanish and other Spanish back.
Yes.
You know, when I did it, it was in the very early 50s. And only because my high school didn't teach German, or my father would have chosen that I would take German. But high school quit teaching German, maybe 2 years before I got there. They used to. And I spoke only German until I went to kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
And
Very
then
cool.
that's when we had a war. You wouldn't know those things, but way back when there was a bad war going on. So speaking German was not really a very good thing, kind of unpopular.
I understand.
So the kind American neighbors told my mother, you can't let that girl speak German anymore, and you can't either. So my mother learned English and so did I. I don't remember any of that. Guess
Wow.
it didn't bother me. I went off to kindergarten without any problem, best I know, but
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah, you
interesting.
learn pretty quickly at that age, I guess. But that is very interesting.
Yeah, so the German words look very familiar to me, but I can't speak it easily.
Yeah.
Okay, did I interrupt you long enough, Richard?
Yes, thank you. That's perfect. So I've got, as you can see in the screen, 1 to 20 is the range we're going to generate this number. And Taylor, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and click it and you can tell us who wins. Number 11, whoever number 11 is.
I don't hear Taylor. Taylor, are you going to answer us? Or is that just because I have you muted?
David Kite.
All right.
David.
Who's the winner?
That's wonderful.
David Kite.
Oh, that
great.
sounds like a good winner.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So this is 6 months for one language. And yeah, I'll share the code with my dad so he can share it with you. And
Excellent.
if you have any technical issues, you know, it's always possible. Reach out, let us know if there's any problems.
All right. Well, thank you.
But David, can you share with us what language you might take?
Well, it probably will be Spanish unless they carry Hawaiian.
No, unfortunately.
Well, it'll probably be Spanish then.
No, Hawaiian's easy. You just pronounce every single letter that you see.
Okay, then,
grew
David,
up-
I'm going to start talking to you in Spanish and writing to you in Spanish.
Okay. It's a good thing I have Google Translate just in case.
No, you just try to work on it.
I grew up on a farm in West Texas with a lot of Mexicans and spoke pretty good pidgin Spanish or Mexican. And when I went to Germany and I'd go into a store, I would have this urge to speak Spanish as best I knew it.
I understand.
And I always thought I was going to go to the University of Maryland like I should have and learned some good German while I had a chance to speak it, but never happened.
Yeah,
So
I have
David-
a tendency, if anybody is speaking anything other than English, I answer in Spanish. Like it's my one and only foreign language I can speak. So if they're speaking a non-English something, I answer in my only non-English, which doesn't really make sense, but it happens.
David, if you can text me or email me, I've got the number from Rachel, so I will pass that to you.
Okay.
Next month, I have another product giveaway, just to entice people to come. Pixelmator Pro is a group that said they're not able to present to us, but they did give me one license for Pixelmator Pro. So next month we'll do that giveaway. I don't have a presenter yet, so I'm just going to keep plugging away on trying to get people for us month to month.
I thought
Well-
Rachel said there were 6 free programs she was going to give away.
No, it
6
was
months.
6-month period.
Yeah, sorry.
6 months
6
for
month
one.
period, not 6. I misunderstood.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I did too.
Thank you, Rachel. You did a great job.
Yes, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Rachel.
it.
We really appreciate it, and it's good to see you, and wish we could come visit you there.
Yes. Thank you guys for giving me the time to share about Babbel. It's been nice to work there. And I think language learning is just, yeah, even especially now, like something nice to spend your time on if you can't go out and do as much. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Rachel,
Right,
you all
thank
still
you
do
again.
the
Peter Zane and vielen Dank. Peter
Yes.
Zane, vielen Dank.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you a lot.
Choose.
Rachel,
Yes, yes.
I've got a question. I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
Number one, y'all don't do Latin, do you?
Do what?
Y'all do not.
Oh, Latin. No, we don't have Latin.
Is Latin still considered a non-spoken language like I
It
once
is not a,
was?
it is, you speak Latin every day. I took 7.5 years of Latin. So there are words that we speak that come directly from Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And it's the basis for the Romance languages.
right, it is, but nobody knows how it was sounded back then or how it was actually spoken, and the closest you can get is Italian. But there's nobody can say, how you phonically sounded things, back then. So that's why it's not a spoken language. It's our English interpretation of the letters that are put in front of us.
And the
You
other
guys
question,
know more than me.
the other question I've got for you, Rachel,
Yes.
because I noticed that English was down. Which form of English is taught? Is it British
Yes.
style?
Good question. So we do have both English as options to set your display language. So you can set British English if you prefer to be like your native language, or American English, but we only teach British English. So it's a European, it started in Europe, the company, so they tend to lean, that's why we only had Spain Spanish. So they tend to lean more towards the European versions of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because since you're in Germany, then the northern part, when at the end of World War II, the northern part was controlled by the British.
Yes. And I would say people who learn English here in general kind of learn from British English.
That's correct.
Even. Yeah. So.
But Rachel, how old did you say this company is?
10 years.
Yeah, so give you another 5 or 10 and you'll spread out a little more.
Okay. So you Babbel, Babbel. What's the extra B, or is there not a relationship to the Tower of Babel, or
yes?
What's the story?
Good question. I know there is a story, but I don't remember it. It is related to the Tower of Babel, but I think it's a not wanting to take the exact name. So yeah, it's related, but I don't remember the exact story. Sorry.
Rachel, my questions are just from my own curiosity, but if we have time, I'm going to ask them anyway. And if we don't, then you can feel free to decline. I'm curious about what your training was, your technical training, and also your, if you had any language training, and how you got this job and what your role is with the company.
Yes. So I am a UX researcher. My training is in human sciences. So I come from a psychology background. I do, social sciences. I use qualitative social science research methodologies. So, instead of, it's not big numbers or data analysis, it's more about hearing really detailed and deep stories about how people experience, whatever topic I need to figure out. So I am trained in qualitative research and how to gather data with the right method, how to analyze it to come up with, valid results. So I'm actually not a language expert. I'm not a teacher, I'm not a linguist. But I am an expert in how do you observe people and do research that can highlight the main pain points that we need to solve. I work with my designers, hey, we heard people are struggling with this feature, how can we make it better? So things like that. I think it's kind of nice that I bring also a non-language I'm not a language expert, because I can kind of empathize with people who are trying to learn languages who also aren't language experts. So I think that's the thing we really need to do well at Babbel, is bridge our expert language teachers, who sometimes they get even maybe a little bit too expert. But at the same time, users who ask for something, maybe what they're asking for isn't actually the best way to learn. So we kind of have to make a marriage between, language expertise and just the real world experience of learning language. So that's kind of what I try to help with.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a tidbit of information that might be good for trivial pursuit sometime. When I was stationed in Germany a long time ago, Finland, the city of or the country of Finland would have broadcast every day on shortwave in Latin.
Mm.
So the friend that had 7 years of Latin, I understand. My wife has had 4 years of Latin and always tells me it's so much better than any other language.
What about that?
Does anybody here speak another language a little bit more fluently than English? Or not more fluently than English, but like Shirley speaks Spanish. Anybody else have some experience?
Parlez-vous français?
Ah, oui.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Big
Yo
Latin.
soy norteamericano, hablo poco español, encero. Working on it.
We have a linguist in our group.
Yes.
Yeah, I speak the UN version of Spanish.
Okay.
Enough to get by, but like you said, you got to have it to be able to order a drink. And where's the Bahnhof?
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I was wondering if what you like best about living in Berlin.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think what I like best is the cultural diversity. In the US, we have a lot of diversity, many different backgrounds, racial diversity, which is really great. In Europe, it's less racially diverse, but it is quite diverse in culture. So there's so many different countries, and each one has a very established culture, obviously completely different language, food, norms for, humor and how you behave and all of that. So I think that's been my favorite thing is even, especially in the city of Berlin, people move here from all over. I'm lucky that English is actually spoken quite often, or unlucky because that means I don't have pressure so much to learn German. But there's, I've met people from all over the world, tried different foods, learned about different customs and all of that. That's been my favorite thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
There was one opportunity for Francine and I to visit Rachel a couple of years back before the pandemic. And it was a really fun trip. I realized that we here in the U.S., especially in Dallas-Fort Worth, take it for granted that we could just get in the car and go anywhere we want at any time. It's very simple. It's not quite so simple in big cities like Berlin. We did have a car, but it was a lot of walking, a lot of subway riding. And after, what did we spend there, Rachel? 2 weeks? I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in better shape. Just walk everywhere.
Definitely. I think lots more walking here. The nice thing though is even if it's not as many cars, all of the transportation across Europe is amazing. So taking trains to different countries very easily, I think is another really nice thing.
Well, the blocks in Berlin are longer than the ones here in the States.
Yeah.
So if you say it's only 6 blocks away,
yes,
it's a little longer than the 6 blocks.
Quite far, yeah.
Now, do they have Uber in Berlin?
Yes, thankfully they do.
Rachel, what's going on with the COVID virus in your area?
Well, we are struggling. So the variants, I guess these different variants that came out of somewhere, I don't know where, but they're hitting Europe a little bit harder for some reason than the US. I guess the vaccine is probably a big part of that. The vaccine rollout in Europe has lagged very far behind what it should be. So that's unfortunate. We're still in pretty heavy lockdown. Bars and restaurants are not open. Even the last week, they put in some new restrictions. You can't have really anybody over to your house and you might get fined. The thing about Germans is they really like, well, I'm generalizing, which maybe isn't so nice, but I find it to be true. Very good rule followers. So if they're, if you break the rules, your neighbors could very likely call the police on you and you get fined. So you want to be pretty strict about following the rules that are set in place.
Such as you can only pass on the left in the Autobahn.
Yes. Yes, Dad liked the Autobahn quite a lot when he was with it.
Yes, even though that there are sections that don't have speed limits, they do have some speed limits on that thing. And I got caught by one, and about 2 months after we returned to the U.S., I got a thing in the mail that I owed a fine for speeding on the Autobahn.
Yes.
Did you pay it?
So I paid it, of course.
Of course.
Were you fined in euros or Deutschmarks?
I'm sure it was euros, but I didn't want to have to face the authorities the next time I went to visit Rachel, so I paid it.
Yeah, now it's gotten really bad. I know in Italy and probably France and maybe Germany, if you drive within the city of a city in the downtown district and do not have an official pass, it automatically takes your license plate and sends you a bill for €100.
Yeah, they will track you down. Actually, I recently got a fine because I set out a piece of furniture on the street, which I had seen lots of people do. And there's a culture of kind of picking up free stuff where you can. So I thought it was okay. And then I guess somebody took a picture of me and I got a fine in the mail 6 weeks later. So they will find you for sure. If you break a rule, they've got you.
That's right.
Yeah,
So you're one of the 10
Never mind.
I did find the answer to the Babbel, Tower of Babbel. So it is related to the Tower of Babbel, as well as some other words like English, obviously Babbel, B-A-B-B-L-E. So I think it's just a mix of all of those related terms. That's how they came up with our name. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Sure.
Many thanks.
I have to go check it out online now.
Yes.
I'm gonna
If you
check
ever
off
have
those
any
that were
feedback,
recent.
you can also send that to my dad and he will forward it to me. I'm happy to hear if you try it out, what your experience was like. I know there's some glitches here and there, so.
How do I know which app? Because there's like 3 or 4 different apps listed. They all look the same. I don't know which one is the right one.
Interesting. Like in the App Store, you mean?
Yeah, in the App Store.
I know in the past we had individual apps per language, but I thought they had condensed it down to one. So I would say if you can find one that looks like this,
Okay.
which is
Looks
just
like
an
what?
orange.
I can't
If
see
you
whatever you're showing.
see that in my,
See the format?
it's like an orange.
It has 3 across the bottom, 3 across the top, and a little one in the middle. Orange and white.
Yeah, it's burnt orange.
But they're all burnt orange, all the ones I'm looking at right now. And one of them does specifically say only Spanish, and it does cost $29.99 to get the app. So I guess that's not the one.
That
The
doesn't
other,
sound like
yeah,
it.
the other 2 that are listed, both are say in-app purchases. So
Richard,
Does it run on a laptop?
Yes, there's a website as well.
I'm only looking at the app on the phone.
Richard, can you find the right one and send it to all of us?
Yeah, I'm looking at what Barbara's looking at, and I see the three. The top two look identical. I'm not sure why the App Store would list that twice like that.
Yeah.
That's
This
strange.
is a big problem in the App Store. It frustrates me.
Yes, even finding the ACD site is difficult sometimes, but any case, since I believe Richard Lynch will know what he's looking for.
The only difference I see on the App Store, the versions Barbara's looking at, the first one has a little thing that says add, and the second one does not. So I
think they're the same.
For me, I would pick either one, I guess. And that third one that says $29.99,
Yeah, definitely. That's for Spanish, though. So.
But for us living in Texas to learn European or Spain Spanish, that's like learning another language.
But that
so, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say either one of those first two would be valid.
Yes, I think the first one is like a paid ad. That's, I don't know, it's not a good practice for the App Store because they're just doubling. I mean, the same thing.
Look at the developer. Look at the developer.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, Paul shared the app directly to the App Store for us. Very nice. But David, I would suggest redeeming the coupon online. I think is the coupon experience. I can send to my dad actually if you haven't found it yet, the exact voucher code link.
Yep. I'll do that online.
Yeah.
I have some relatives that live in the Dominican Republic. Maybe I'll know what they're saying about me now.
There you go.
That's going to be interesting. It's a little bit, I used to explain it to people. It's a little bit like in this country when you speak English. If you're in Boston or you're in New Orleans, Spanish would sound very different if you were the foreigner visiting and thinking you were listening for English versus whatever school English you learned, whatever country you come from.
Yes.
But it's better than nothing if you have a off dialect. It's better than nothing.
And if you can see it written at the same time you learn it, you'll see this, well, you won't know it, but they are similar. Even like, I like to pick on Boston. You know how they put R's or don't put R? No, put R's on the end of everything. There's no R written on some of those words.
Yes.
So when you learn it, a combination of speaking with the written, I've found that wherever I've gone with that 9th grade Spanish, they do understand me. They look at me blank for half a sentence or something and then catch on. And the fact that I've had mostly patients in the hospital correct my Spanish, little old ladies, I'll say, you know that they understood what I wanted to say, even if I didn't say it right, if they can turn around and tell me how to say it right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they're being helpful. They're not criticizing. They're
being very helpful, but they also are proving the point to me that they understood, because I was usually giving some kind of lesson in regard to their health, that they understood what I was trying to tell them. They were just telling me a nicer way to say it. Perfect learning from my point of view for them. If they can repeat to me what I said, but in a better language form, then they got their health message in between teaching me Spanish. So it all worked out well.
Very nice. Okay, I have to go cook dinner now.
It is that time of day for you.
Yes, it's about 6:15. But thank you guys so much. It was
really nice to meet you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time and for the code.
Well, and thanks to your dad for inviting you for us.